My agentic engineering workflow has changed. It's better. The models have got better. Some of the tools have switched up. The main important thing that you need to understand, though, is that the experience I have from building applications, it's what steers me when I do agentic development, when I use agents to build my applications. Now, usually the videos I've done is I'll show you the tools that I use and sort of high-level experience my workflow. There's an app I've been working on called Pluto, and I'm going to build out one of the features that I had planned with you. This video might be long. This video might be short. This video might get in the nitty-gritty. I don't really have a plan for this other than record me building a feature. And if that excites you, I hope you're ready. Sit back, relax. Let's get straight to it. So, high level, my workflow. I'm using GPT-5.5 extra high fast, and I'm using it in Cursor. Now, I know a lot of people love using Codex app and the Codex CLI. You can do that as well. I genuinely just prefer Cursor. Now, Cursor is on the more expensive side, but in my opinion, it is worth the cost, especially for the app that I'm building. Second thing that I'm introducing is I'm using Grep for the code review. Now, there's other great code review tools as well, but the reason why I stick with Grep and I really like Grep is the /grep loop skill that they have. I'll explain what that is in a second. And third, I use Whisperflow. I've noticed that, man, when you use speech to text, you will say a lot more than you type, right? It's going to take me a second to type things out. But if I'm just to yap, I'm already a yapper. I'm a YouTuber. I yap for a living. Whisperflow just makes so much sense. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't been on the paid plan. I've used it for the last couple months. I haven't paid for a single thing. I don't even know what paid users get. That's how much I've been using the app, and that's how generous the free tier is. So we're going to use Cursor, GPT 5.5 extra high fast. We're going to use Grep. I'm going to talk about the Grep loop, and we're going to use Whisperflow for all our prompting. Let's build out this feature. So what I want to build for Pluto is an artifacts feature like Claude, right? And if you're not familiar with artifacts, I have an example here. I prompted the agent here, show me financial projection of someone who invests $500 a month from age 18 and how much money they'll have by 40. Now, Claude built like an inline component, which is actually pretty cool. And maybe this is another feature we look at. But right now, what I want is basically what's on the right, and like an HTML page or React page, whatever it is being generated, and I can visually see this. This is what artifacts was. This is what I think Anthropic like innovated on, and it was pretty cool, and I'd like that for Pluto. Now, Pluto is pretty awesome. There's a lot of cool things that come with Pluto out of the box, right? I obviously have a chat interface. I can connect to my iMessage, Telegram, Slack, but there's a couple cool form factors, right? I have a Kanban board called tasks. I can also set up routines, which are repeated tasks. Every agent gets its own email, right? 1,000+ connections, right, using Composio. And then we have a dedicated files workbench. And this is basically where you can upload like, invoices, contracts, spreadsheets, whatever. And like there's a OCR workflow, and like there's a very specialized files workflow where the agent has precise knowledge and data, especially for very, very large files. This is pretty awesome. And then cards. I'm actually working on being able to give the agent its own credit card, virtual card, so it can make payments, has its own phone line. And then finance is something cool where you can connect your business's finances and it can read all the information, right? So this is basically an agent for businesses. And when we go to chat, you can also give, every agent has its own dedicated computer, right? Right now we have Linux machines. Soon we might be able to give access to Mac machines or Windows machines, but right now we have Linux. So this is all pretty cool. This is Pluto in a nutshell. If you want a more dedicated video on Pluto and how it works, let me know in the comments down below. Let's build out this feature. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm obviously going to open up Cursor. I'm going to open up Cursor. Let me zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to start yapping. I want to build a Claude artifacts-like feature. If you're not familiar with Claude artifacts, basically, I can prompt the agent to do something, and if there's like a visual component, whether it's writing HTML or a markdown file or whatever the case may be, a React file, it will preview it to the side. And because you're a smart agent, you have access to a web fetch tool. Why don't you search the web and learn what the Claude Artifacts feature is and tell me about it, because this is what we're going to build. And Whisperflow processes that. We hit enter. Now, the way I'm sort of working on this app, or at least the workflow that I have in terms of CI, CD, and all that type of stuff, I'm using GitHub, of course, but the way I'm developing everything is I have a staging branch. Everything gets like, I'm working on a feature locally. Once I like it, move on to staging branch. I test it out on staging branch for some time, and if I like it, move it over to the main branch. Now, I talked about Grep loop for a second. I kind of want to explain to you how that works. So one of the code reviewers I have here is Grep. This is a pretty large PR, so I won't be able to review the entire thing, but there was a moment in time it did. Let me show you exactly where that could be. I think we just need to unload, and here you have it. Now, what's cool with Grep, you get the summary and you get this confidence score, right? You get this confidence score. Right now, this is a 4 out of 5. Anything 4 out of 5 and higher, obviously being a 5 out of 5, is good enough for me. But what's cool about Grep Loop, and if you don't know how to set up, if you haven't had it set up already, you literally just go to Greptile's repo, find their skills, and the Grep Loop skill is what you want. And essentially how Grep Loop works, I can diagram this for you. Let's say there is me right here. I actually have a great icon for this. Let's say there's me. I push a change to my app. What Greptile is going to do is Greptile is going to review it, right? It's going to do a review. And then let's say I get a 2 out of 5, right? Let's say it works, but there's some security features that I missed. There's some edge cases that I missed. Like I just missed a bunch of things. Now I can read the comments, give it to my agent, and get the agent to adjust the comments, or I can just enter Grep Loop, assuming you have the skill installed. Once I have Grep Loop loaded, what's going to happen is my agent is going to read from GitHub. It's going to read the comments. It's going to take in the comments. It's going to address the comments, and it's going to push a change. And then what's going to happen is it's going to wait for a new review to be generated, right? Because every time you push to that same branch, Greptile files a review. Now, let's say a change was made and it gives it a 3 out of 5, meaning, yeah, you address some things, but there's still some more missing. What Grep Loop is going to do is it's going to wait till it gets the new review. When it sees the 3 out of 5, it's going to realize, hey, this isn't a 5 out of 5. Let's go back. Addresses the changes, pushes again. It will keep going. I think there's a maximum of like 5 to 6 turns, but essentially it will keep going until it gets a 5 out of 5, right? And the reason why I like GPT 5.5 extra high fast is it's a really intelligent model. And especially when it comes to building complex features, it just writes a bunch of tests. And in this case, this is actually great because whenever I get feedback, it reviews the tests and realizes, okay, the test case, the originally wrote passed. I need to add some more additional things. And this has just been a great experience thus far. So let's see what we got. It says, I found the feature. I think you mean Claude artifacts. Oh, did I write cloud? My bad. Claude artifacts are a standalone piece of generated content that appear in a dedicated panel beside the chat. Claude creates one when the output is substantial, self-contained, and is likely to be edited, reused, previewed, or referenced later. Anthropic's examples include Markdown, plain text, code snippets, single-page sites, SVGs, diagrams, flowcharts, and interactive React components. So far, so good. Core behavior from the docs. The artifact opens in the right side preview. Users can ask Claude to modify the artifact, etc., etc. So it's got the gist. For what we're building, the important product shape is an agent produces a normal chat most of the time. But when it creates a visual or reusable deliverable, we promote that output into a first-class artifact with its own lifecycle, type, title, source, preview renderer, versions, error state, and update path. The main architecture pieces will likely need artifact detection and creation, makes sense, artifact registry, preview runtime, code preview toggle, iteration loop, sandboxing and security, error capture, and sharing export later. Okay, so far, we're good. Now, this is what I'm going to do. You know exactly the type of feature that I want. I now want you to create a plan on how we're going to build this. Make sure you review the entire code base. Make sure you understand how things work. I don't want us to build this feature for the cost of breaking another one. So make sure you do a great job. And yeah, give me your plan. So it's going to generate a plan. Let me go to plan mode. It's going to generate a plan. Now, there are other skills that I have. One in particular that I really use a lot, and it's called /code-structure. And basically take you guys to the repo, and again, I'll link this down in the description down below. This is my personal skill. This basically restructures a specific feature, the code base, in a service layer. Therefore, it's very clean, it's very understandable if I need to dive in and look into the code, which I'll be honest, for the most part, I haven't really been after using this, but it also helps the agent read the code and understand what's going on, right? So this is another skill we'll be using as well. Now, let's go back to cursor. We see that multiple sub-agents using Composer 2.5 Fast have been deployed, and it's going to be working on this plan. While the feature is working, I can open up Steam, and I've been obsessed with Red Dead Redemption 2 again. I played it before, I finished it before, but for some reason I don't know why I just have this urge to play it again. So while this feature's working, we can play. So right now I don't know if you can see, but I'm taking Jack fishing. I think his name is Jack. He's John Marston's kid. And yeah, we're going to wait for Cursor to cook, and I'm going to play in the meantime. While AI is generating code, let me show you how you can get better at agentic engineering. And that's with today's sponsor. Before I introduce today's sponsor, let's hear from everyone's favorite CEO, Dario. Let's see what he has to say.
I don't know, we might be 6 to 12 months away from when the model is doing most, maybe all of what SWEs do end to end.
So we're 6 to 12 months away from all software engineering being done by agents. Yet if I go on Anthropic's careers page and I select engineering and design for product, I see 20 open roles. It's very important for us to understand that engineering is not dead. In fact, it's become more alive because generating code has become so much easier. That's why I highly recommend Scrimba, the sponsor of today's video, and their full stack developer path. If I was getting started today and I didn't want to spend 4 years in college, I would take this exact path, the full stack developer path. You're going to learn everything from HTML, CSS, to responsive design, to setting up backends using Node.js, databases, Express, UI design. You're going to learn React, you're going to learn advanced React, you're going to learn about Next.js, one of my favorite frameworks, although I find Svelte to be better. And here's what's interesting about Scrimba. Scrimba is the most unique platform, and I'm not saying that because they sponsored this video, but I want to show you just a random video. So I'm going to click play.
At the moment, where we're making our fetch request.
So you hear the instructor talking, right? And you see him screen sharing. But at the same time, this screen is an IDE in the browser. And then I could go back to watching the video. This is by far the most unique learning platform I've ever used. If you want to take advantage of the times that we're in, then there's no better way than learning how to write and architect and engineer. And the best way to get started is using Scrimba. Make sure to check them out. The link is in the description. I highly recommend the full stack developer path. Now let's get back to the video. Okay, so plan complete. It says chat artifacts preview plan. Add a right side artifacts panel to /dashboard/chat that opens when the assistant creates substantial visual or reusable content. The first milestone should support Markdown, HTML, SVG, and code artifacts safely. Framework component previews should be added through a follow-up sandbox compiler path rather than by running arbitrary React Svelte code directly in the main app. Okay, cool. What I found, the main chat surface, it already handles list state, direct gateway streaming, fallback schedule runs, active run preview recovery, message rendering, attachments, a desktop side sheet, and a sub agent inspector. All right, so it's glazing my code. We love that. And this is the diagram we get: user prompt, chat run row, gateway stream, checks if it needs to preview the content, artifact block parser. Okay. So one thing I noticed, there's a rollout strategy here. It's planning on doing 5 PRs. Let me see. Are you planning on doing 5 separate PRs? Is it because it's going to be a large code change? Now, I will say, for Grep to work, for any code review to work properly, you're going to want to keep the PRs minimal, right? If the PR is too large with too many files, it's going to be hard for any agent to review it. So minimal PRs that are to the point, that fix a specific thing, chef's kiss. It says, yes, that's my recommendation because it's fairly large, cross-cutting feature. Okay, but it doesn't have to be 5 PRs. A practical split would be backend data model plus parser and tests, PR2 chat integration plus side panel. The 5 PR version is the most reviewable path. Honestly, I like the original plan of 5 PRs. Right? I'd rather keep it minimal and simple. All right, it says sounds good. We'll keep the original 5 PR rollout. That's safer path for this feature because it lets us verify chat streaming and persistence before layering on preview UI and executable content. That's fair. Again, I would rather my PRs be minimal. I can test, I can verify things look good, and then I can move on to the next thing versus having this giant large PR. And I know you probably like, but you have a large one for the staging. Again, the staging is the place where I'm testing it, right? I'm testing the feature. If something's not working, we're back to local, and then we'll merge back to staging, right? But for stuff like this, I need to have multiple PRs, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to let this agent cook. Highly recommend this album, mixtape, whatever this is. Fire. My favorite song, Gen 5 or Took a Break. And yeah, this is kind of the life of agentic engineering. It's like it's just going, and I'm just waiting, and I could maybe read a book, play a game, or work on another project. Also, another side topic, I can't believe Arsenal won the Premier League. I can't believe, like, I have been a proud Arsenal hater for basically all my life. I made it like a known thing that, like, one of my goals as an avid soccer football fan is I get great joy watching Arsenal lose, and the fact that they won the Premier League honestly breaks my heart. This is how you know Jesus is returning soon. That Arsenal winning the league, we really are in the end times. All right, so cursor is done with the task. We see here that it's implemented the chat artifacts preview plan. I'm not even going to read all this. Let's go just test out the feature. Let's say create an artifact that explains how World War II went. And let's just hit enter. So let's see, this is a first try. Again, probably might not work. It might work halfway. Let's see what we get from the agent. Oh, okay. So it is writing HTML, it is streaming HTML off rip. Probably not something I wanted to do. I probably wanted to just like say it's, you know, cooking. I don't want to see the stream, but so far so good. It's working. All right. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, the underlying model that I'm using is GLM 5, simply for a cost perspective. Like the cost to the type of knowledge you get is pretty high. Obviously, it's no Opus or, you know, GPT-5.5, but it'll do the job. And there you have it. We have our preview. Now, again, it is ugly because I'm using GLM 5.5. I know if I use Opus, it'll probably be very beautiful and chic, but I mean, it did it. Now, there's a couple things from a product perspective. I would love to be able to slide this right here. So I'm just going to take a screenshot real quick. Let's copy this. Let's go back to cursor, paste this, and I'm going to say, so you got it right. It works. But the one thing I'd love to be able to do is I'd love to be able to resize the panel, the window for the artifacts, just like I can do with desktop. Literally look at the desktop resizing and just implement the same thing and hit enter. And basically what I mean by that is if I open the desktop, oh, and that's probably something I should think about. When I open the desktop, you can see here I can resize this to my liking. But with this right here, it's just a fixed thing. And I can download the HTML if I want to. Now, can I make changes? Let's see. Can you change the theme from like the light mode that it's into dark mode? Let's see if it can do that. Oh, okay. This is a known bug I have on the app. When I open the desktop and close it, there's like a routing issue. So assume that didn't happen. Embarrassing, I know, but that's another bug for another day. I'm going to try again. Can you change the theme from light mode to dark mode? Let's see if it actually updates the existing artifact. Would be interested to see if it actually worked out the box. Okay, we can see the resizing has been added. Great. But I asked it to change it to dark mode, and it said it already was in dark mode. I sent it a screenshot, and it says, I see the issue. The artifact preview is still showing the light mode one. Let me emit. See, this is why the streaming is annoying. Okay, we're going to fix that. I don't like it streaming the HTML. Let's go back here and say when the HTML has been written, right now what we have it is on the chat UI, it will stream. Can we just have like an animation that says, oh, like, you know, writing or building, or actually it should say something like writing HTML or crafting artifact. Actually, I like crafting artifact. Write crafting artifact, let it animate and pulsate nicely instead of the entire HTML streaming. So we'll have this queued up. Another thing that I noticed is, okay, see, there you go, it worked. It says here, I see the issue, the artifact preview is still showing the light mode. Let me emit an updated version with the same key to refresh it. Another thing I noticed is I created an artifact and then I asked the agent to update existing artifact. And it updated it, I believe, but it did not show it. So can you please review that process and make it so that I can see every update? I also want to see every older version, right? Yeah, make that happen. And then we're going to hit next on this one. So we have these two queued up. We have this almost done, I believe. GPT-5.5, like it always does. It's writing a test. Tests are great. It's okay. We're going to be happy with this. Now, we're getting to a point where this looks pretty good. I like this feature. Now I'm going to show you how, in just a bit, once these two are done, I'm going to show you how I'm going to merge this into staging, and this is where Grep is going to come in play. Some interesting findings here. I can see the chat artifact instructions that it's generated. It says when creating a substantial standalone visual or reusable content emitted in an artifact fence, Use this exact opening fence shape. Open agent artifact type HTML title, short title, key, stable kebab key. Okay. Supported artifact type values are Markdown, HTML, SVG, and code. For code artifacts, include language, TS, or another short language ID when useful. When revising an existing artifact, reuse the same key so the update becomes a new version of the artifact. Put only the artifact source inside the fence. Continue conversational explanation outside the fence. That's pretty interesting. It says your artifact updates are returned with full version history. The side panel shows version history. Selecting an order version updates both preview and source views. New update defaults back to latest unless explicitly select an older version. The agent prompt now tells the model to reuse the same artifact key, and we just read that. Let's see right here if we can see. Yep, we see V2, V1, and let's say add World War I history in the same artifact as well. Let's make this a history document HTML. World War II was a global conflict that pitted the Allied powers against the Axis powers. It began with Germany's invasion of Poland on September 1st, 1939, and ended with Japan's surrender on September 2nd, 1945. And now we have that. Okay, so I don't need to see the streaming. I can just see that it's writing HTML. That's great. We have multiple different versions right here. I can close this. I can open this. I can resize this. I mean, I don't think there's much that we're missing. Now, what's interesting is I don't think we followed this plan right here, this rollout plan. We'll see. I'm going to ask it to push this to a branch and make a PR to staging. But here's one thing I do want to say. I don't necessarily create the plan for the agent, although I do think it helps. There are times where I'll just build the feature going back and forth with it. The plan sometimes, and actually most of the time, is really for me because I'll work on multiple features at a time and I need to remember what it is that I was working on or what it is that me and the agent were working on. So low-key, it actually helps me. I'm pro plan for myself, but I also use it with the agent, but more so myself, to be honest with you. Now let's go back here. The update has been made. We can see version 3 active. And yeah, we see World War I and then World War II. So this feature is pretty much done. I really like it. I thought we'd have more issues. Family, GPT 5.5 extra high. Fast is amazing. So let's clean up. I want you to push this to a new branch. And from that branch, create a PR to staging. We're not going to merge to main. We're going to merge to staging. So push the branch, create a PR, and give me the PR link. We're going to hit enter. So now what's going to happen is it's because I have GitHub connected, it's going to create a new branch, push to that branch, create a PR. It's going to give me the PR link, and then we're going to review the PR, and we're going to see what score Grep gives us. Oh, and by the way, for the tech stack, I am using SvelteKit. This is a full Svelte app. You don't believe me? Let me open. There you go. Layout.svelte file. You have, it's also not only just a web app, there's also a desktop app using Electron for that. There's a web app, and then there's an admin dashboard to manage admin stuff. Using Svelte to power everything. Convex, best backend in the world. Convex literally orchestrates everything. Deploying this on Daytona. Daytona is the best agent cloud provider. I used a bunch of them, fell in love with Daytona. And there's a couple other tools like Super Memory for memory, Agent Mail for mail, Plaid for the financial stuff, Twilio for the phone. So really incorporating a lot of services, creating these very composable service layer abstractions so that each service connects to a specific thing and I can find the code easily. So this project, in my opinion, is a very well thought of agentic engineered project. It's not perfect by any means, but it's pretty dang good. So let's open this PR. I can view it in Cursor's PR viewer, but I'm going to be honest, I am going to go on GitHub. Let's go on GitHub. But Cursor's is pretty nice too. It's just not real time, meaning like when an update pushes, I have to click like refresh here to make sure I see it. But let's go back here. We could see Grep is fired off. We do have CI pipeline. I'll explain that maybe in another video if you're interested. But now we see 2,000 lines added, 13 removed. Great summary written by Cursor. We're just going to wait on the Grep review and we're going to see what we get. All right, the review is here. And ladies and gents, we got a 3 out of 5 confidence score. Let's see why. This PR adds a full chat scope artifact system, fence parser, convex persistent versioning, and resizable side panel with safe preview rendering for Markdown. Let's see. Okay, it's explaining. Let's see the issues. Okay, this is a security issue. The artifact persistence and rendering pipeline is well structured, but the message card matching logic has a defect that can surface draft content under past messages during active stream runs. The artifact cards for message function contains a matching condition that can cause past message artifact cards to resolve to the current streaming draft when draft shares on artifact key with a message already persisted. Because chart artifacts removes the persisted copy in favor of the draft, past messages lose their correct historical reference and instead show a live incomplete content. This makes sense. Visible to any user. This makes sense. And then there's some security stuff. Now, usually you get these comments, right? And these comments basically tell you where the issue is, and you can copy the prompt to fix where the issue is. Sometimes you'll get commit suggestions where it will commit the message for you, but usually you can just copy the prompt to fix. Now here is where grep loop comes in. I'm gonna go to cursor, I'm gonna do / grep loop, and we're gonna hit enter. Now what's going to happen is what I explained to you earlier. I pushed the change, I got a 3 out of 5. I fired grep loop. Grep loop is going to read the feedback. It's going to make changes. The cursor agent is going to make changes. Push to GitHub. Re-review. If it's a 4 out of 5, back to cursor. Cursor updates. And then when it's a 5 out of 5, or there have been 5 turns, then it stops. So this is, again, my process. Build the functionality. Test it. Actually see if it works. It worked. But there's some edge cases we can't catch off an initial use. Then we fire that off to greptile. Greptile gives us a review. There's some security things we missed as well. / grep loop starts cooking. So you can see here, it says greptile left 3 actual comments. 1 real draft leak bug, 1 sandbox tightening, and 1 small cleanup around an identity helper. I'm going to patch those, update the affected source test, run the focused artifact test, commit, push, and then trigger the next greptile iteration. This is where / grep loop works and cooks. And now I'm probably going to go grab something to eat. I'll be right back. Got some pasta, cream sauce. Let's see if our grep review has changed. Let's refresh. It actually pushed the change. And now you see, I didn't even write that. The grep loop did it. So it fired, GitHub's API and wrote @greptile review. And whenever greptile drops this emoji, that means it's reviewing the code changes. And you can see a review started a minute ago. In a couple minutes, we'll see if this is a 5 out of 5, a 4 out of 5. Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, especially if the PR is big, it might even degrade. So let's see what we get. All right, so we got an update and we got a 4 out of 5. It says it's safe to merge with the iframe error detection gap addressed before shipping the repair workflow to users. It tags this specific file and says the on-error event wiring needs a different approach. Example, post message from inside the frame to actually surface rendering errors to HTML and SVG artifacts. So it addressed it. See, this review is complete, got a thumbs up, and then now we have this one comment. And again, I can copy this, paste it, and then tag @greptile review for a new review after push has been made, or I can just wait on grep loop to continue to cook. So notice this, we're literally following the same trajectory. Went from, in this case, 3 out of 5 to 4 out of 5. Now hopefully next we go 5 out of 5. Again, there are times where it will get stuck at 4 out of 5. If I notice it going in a continuous cycle, I'll probably stop, I'll review myself, and I'll just merge, right? Because you don't want the agent to keep editing, and then it's going to start hallucinating and making stuff up. Short, simple, concise, to the point, not too long. That's the sauce that I've seen success with. Now it's fixing up that edge case. If I click here, I can see the changes it's making. And I just got to wait. I can work on another project, or I'm going to play a little bit of Red Dead Redemption. All right, so we got a 3 out of 5. It says you're safe to merge for Markdown and code artifact. HTML SVG artifact preview will silently show non-interactive content. Due to sandbox configuration and the version history query could become a bandwidth concern for active chats, right? And we get some feedback here. Now, I could just fire off the grep loop here, right? And to fire off the grep loop, all I would do is / grep loop. But in my humble opinion, this PR is a little too big, right? It's over 2,000 lines. So what I'm going to do is as follows. I'm going to go to cursor and say the PR has been made. We got a 3 out of 5 out of greptile. but the PR feels a little too big for the greptile agent to be able to capture everything. What do you think about splitting the PR into smaller chunks that makes sense so we can get greptile to review the code and we can merge it safely? And we're going to hit enter, and the goal is to at least get this to a couple hundred lines each, maybe even if it's 1,000, that's fair. But I feel like 2,000 lines is just a pretty big PR, and I don't want to get into this cycle of like greptile keeps catching issues because, again, the code base, like the PR is just large, right? So let's try to make it smaller. And if you're an engineer and you've worked in the engineer org, you know, the smaller the PR, the more focused the PR, the better your life is. And I think the same applies to the agent as well. All right, so we got a response. It says, yes, I think splitting up is the right move. This PR makes this parser contract, convex schema persistent, secure rendering, and a large UI integration. greptile will do better if each PR has one review surface. And the suggestion is 4 PRs, add a chart artifact, fence contract, okay. And then the artifact persistence, okay, preview. Okay, this all sounds good to me. I'd like to keep this as stacked PRs rather than independent branches because later pieces genuinely depend on each other. And I'll be like, do it. Looks good. This looks like a genuine good plan. GPT-5 extra high fast for the win. It sounds like a Starbucks order. And let's see what it generates. So the PRs have been split. I have 4 PRs here. And if I open up on my browser, I have PR 1, 2, 3, 4, all under 1,000 lines code. It's going to be much easier for the greptile agent to review and for us to deploy a fix using grep loop. All right, so the reviews came in and every single one got a 3 out of 5. Every single one. So this is great. So let's see the issues here. It says, save for basic single block artifact, but markdown artifacts containing nested code fences will silently be truncated at the first inning closing fence. The closing fence regex matches any bare triple backtick line. So markdown artifact embedding a fenced code snippet will have its content cut off at the inner fence with no error. Okay, so this is pretty good catch. It gives us some feedback. Let's use the grep loop. Now, we're on PR 87. Remember, we have a stacked PR here, so we have a number of them. We want to fix 87 first. So let's go back here and let's say, please review. Actually, no, I don't need to do that. I'm going to do /grep loop, and I'm just going to say PR 87. There you go, a little golden text right there, PR 87. So now what's going to happen is the cursor agent knows to run the grep loop on PR 87. It's going to read the contents. Again, I'll show you this diagram I drew earlier. It's going to read the review, read the feedback, fix it, push a change. That change push is going to call the greptile review again, and then it won't stop until it gets a 5 out of 5, or it's taken 5 turns, whichever one comes first. So in this case, we see it says here greptile left 3 actionable comments on the parser contract. It points that out. It's thinking right now. It's going to push the fixes, and then it's going to re-review it, and it won't stop again till it either gets a 5 out of 5 or it has 5 turns. So you probably noticed a shirt change. I had day job work I had to do. I had to take care of my lady. I got a little busy, but guess what? We got our grep loops done. So instead of boring you with the details, I'm just going to show you what I did. We grep looped each PR. We did grep loop 87. Once I got a 5 out of 5, merged it. Then we went to 88, grep loop. Once I got a 5 out of 5, merged it. 89, grep loop, 5 out of 5, merged it. 90, merged it. We did that, and you can see here, 5 out of 5 here, 5 out of 5 here, and all of it has been merged to staging. Now, what we have left is to actually test this thing. So let's go and open chat. Let me just refresh real quick. Open chat. Let's say, can you create an artifact sharing the best restaurants in Toronto? So hopefully this works. And if it doesn't, we're going to debug together. But if it does, we cooked. All right, so what happens is it says here, I'll delegate this research task to a sub-agent, then it can gather the current information about Toronto. So it spawned a sub-agent, and I can click on Open Inspector here and see what's going on. Basically, it saw that, okay, I'm going to need to do some research for this, and instead of blocking the main thread, I'm going to deploy a sub-agent. The reason why this is cool is I can say, what's up with you today? Just being a weirdo talking to AI like a friend. And the main thread's not blocked because this has been given off to a sub agent, and I can chat with the main agent, and you can see here it responded to me saying, hey, I'm doing well, and it told me it has a sub agent running, and I can get it to do other things, which is pretty cool. I do talk about it in this video, my agent is better than Claude Cowork, on how I architected the agent and how like the sub agent stuff works. So check it out. It's literally like the 4th video on my channel. And if we go back here to the sub agent, we see that I got good data from both Condé Nast Traveler and Time Out Toronto. Let me fetch a few more sources to get a comprehensive list. So it's doing its research, finding the best restaurants in Toronto. And we can see the artifact here. Now, mind you, not the prettiest one, pretty ugly, and that's probably because I'm using GLM5, but it got it done. It worked. We finished building the feature, and it was all because of this simple workflow where I use GPT 5.5 extra high, fast. We have Greptile's Grep loop skill, right? Minimal PRs, right? We don't want the PR to be too big. We want them to be minimal. And just a little back and forth and a little structure gets you a long way. Now, something I'm going to do, and I talked about this earlier, is I won't show it in this video, but I'll probably run this skill right after, just so it can clean up the code and we have this nicely tidied, documented functions where I know exactly where artifacts are and the agents know where artifacts are. And that's pretty much it. This is how you do agentic engineering. At least this is how I do it, ladies and gents. I hope you found value in this. I know this was rather a long video. Let me know if you like stuff like this. Every time, I hop on podcasts or other people's channels and I share this stuff, people seem to really like it. And I never really done it on my channel. So let me know your thoughts down below. Would really appreciate a like, a comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace!